Yes, everyone, welcome back to Red Brew Review. This is me, Julio. uh, just getting back into the swing of things with the podcasting thing. Like I said in my video earlier today, I've been away for a while, so it's good to be back. I'm joined by everyone's favorite day tripper and one of my favorite Twitter accounts, just for all the fry-ups and the food he posts out. Brian, long time coming, mate. How are you?
Julio, how you doing, mate? Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. I'm not sure about everyone's favorite day tripper, but I do my bit.
Yeah, nah, it is what it is. You clearly show a commitment to get go and watch United games as regularly as you can, and I can't have nothing but respect for that. There are a lot of people who find it a lot more difficult and still maintain that. So yeah, it's good to have you on. I'm really glad we could finally get down to it. But so yeah, let's dive straight in. I wanted to ask you about your background supporting United, like your experiences supporting United, any like stories from travel, earlier experiences, etc. Like, just tell me a bit about how what United has been like for you supporting United.
Right, let's take it back to the very start. So my initiation with Man United was through my grandmother. So my nan used to live next door to us. God rest her, she's passed away a few years now. But I used to call back to her most evenings with the newspaper back then, sit down beside the fireplace. My granddad had passed away, and I never knew why my nan was always shouting at the radio or shouting at the telly. But I suppose over time I figured out there must be some reason she's getting so excited and so emotional. And I asked her one time, I said, "What's that on telly then?" Or what, it was a television or radio or whatever she was listening to. I was only a child, and she was like, "Oh, that's my football team. That's Manchester United. They've got Irish lads that play for them." And obviously the Irish link straight away. And being my nan's team, I was like, "Wow, this must be really special. If my nan loves it, I should love it too." Found out my dad was also a United fan, and a love affair grew from there. My uncle and cousins who live over in Peterborough are Reds as well. So as a kid, we went over to visit for a weekend, and I ended up with my first United kit, the old black Sharp Cam one with Gigs 11 on the back in yellow. I wish I still had it actually, but unfortunately, I never kept any of my stuff through the years, and it just took off from there. Um, Developed into a lifelong love affair. First game I saw was I think '94. Was around '94. I think United played Shelburne in Tolka Park. My dad wouldn't have been like a match going fan. He was more kind of like watching on telly and what on the radio and whatnot. So got into it through that, and then it took off. Just literally fell in love with it. I ended up going to games by myself quite a lot when I was younger. Not as many games as local lads would have been able to, obviously, because being a young lad over here with the distance involved and Ryanair flights weren't as readily available back then for as cheap as they were. So it was getting you were getting flights all right, but they were a bit more expensive, and you're going on your own. You didn't really know anybody. It was a bit more daunting, I guess. But it developed on as I got a bit older and I got a bit more into going to games, and I ended up moving to Australia for a number of years. And the biggest thing when I was in Australia was obviously missing United and missing going to games. So I wasn't there too long. I moved to Brisbane, and I just went on Google one night. I wanted to watch the United game. And I was like, where am I going to watch this? I'm sick of watching games at home. Like games in Australia on at like 11, 12 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's a ball ache to watch. But I didn't want to just wake up, roll out of bed, watch it on telly, and then roll back into bed and game over again, because you can't come down from the adrenaline rush of watching United play and go straight back to sleep. It's not possible. So I ended up finding the Brisbane Man United Supporters Club. And back here, in my area back then, there was no supporters club. Well, there was, but it wasn't really pushed that hard. So we didn't really have a supporters club background here. I got involved with the supporters club in Brisbane, and it was electric. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, you can imagine United playing at 11 or 12 o'clock on a Saturday night. You go out for your Saturday night socialising with your friends, then you end up going to the supporters club bar, which is on like the riverside. Beautiful, beautiful bar, big open smoking area looking at the river in Brisbane. And there's a load of pissed up Reds. Everyone's been on the booze all day and all evening, and the atmosphere was just phenomenal. So it was, I know it's a cliche thing to say, but it kind of was like a little bit of Manchester away from home, because there was loads of expats, loads of Manchester lads, and it was full on singing and chanting all night. So that was absolutely brilliant. Loved it, and it got me through my couple of years in Australia. It was 6 years I was there in total. Then I moved back home again, and I kind of thought to myself, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that camaraderie and that kind of family and friendship of having a supporters club network. So I said, why not start with myself? So I started a local branch here. We became official quite quickly through the club. We've grown that to, I think, pushing 250 members now at this season. Really took off. And obviously, since I've come home, I've been travelling home away Europe. I was getting in as many games as possible over the years. Not as many this season, admittedly, because my kids are getting a little bit older. They're kind of wondering why is Dad gone every second weekend and where is he going and what's this magical place called Manchester. So when they're a little bit older, I'll bring them. But yeah, that's the background, I guess.
Wow, that's I actually never knew you moved to Australia. I don't know how much common knowledge that is, to be fair, but I think that's actually quite incredible, the fact that there was there was a support there ended up being a supporters club out there. And everyone loves to go on an absolute piss up on a Saturday night, but to do it because of the football, or whilst the football is happening, and then I can't imagine the amount of all-nighters you must have pulled back then, just absolutely on the lash all day, and then all night straight into 6 o'clock Sunday morning. There, that sounds
The
quite insane.
funniest,
I'm a little bit jealous now.
the funniest to admit was I know people, especially on social media, people slag off like Australian Reds and New Zealand Reds and American Reds because all you've got to do is get out of bed and you're watching it on telly and it's like a cartoon show to you. But when you go there and do it, you get a new perspective on it because I worked in construction over there. So I started at 6 o'clock every morning and we're doing 12-hour shifts every day. So you're working 6 to 6. When we're playing fucking Bodo Glimt on a Tuesday night, it's Wednesday morning for me. So I'm getting up at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, going watching the match, and then going straight to work after it. It is an absolute mission to watch United, to watch every game. I think in the 6 years I was there, minus coming home on holidays and stuff, I think I missed like 2 games seeing them live. So the effort of getting out of bed all the time, I know people stereotypically take the piss out of it, but it is an absolute nightmare. But the only reason you can kind of get into doing it so regularly is because you are going meeting other people who are doing the exact same thing. There was a gang of us. I mean, Saturday nights, Sunday nights, Friday nights, weekend games. There's always going to be a massive gang. But like Wednesday, Thursday mornings before work, you still have 10, 20 of us inside in a bar that's not even serving alcohol, just showing the game, sitting around the screen, shouting like idiots. So it's good, and it's a great way to keep in touch with what's happening back home. And like I've met some great lads, Australian lads and New Zealand lads and lads from all over the world who do literally spend an utter fortune to go for that one game every season. I mean, it costs them absolute thousands.
Mm.
So there is a great network of Reds globally. And then getting into the supporters club side of things, like I'm kind of heavily invested in the global network of supporters clubs, and I do a lot of work with other supporters clubs around the world. The passion that's there for United is phenomenal. Even this, I mean, this season, it's our worst season in modern history. Like we're down the arsehole of the league. The demand for tickets is ridiculous. It's still ridiculous. It still blows my mind. I mean, the Manchester Derby there the other week, that was a dead rubber. I mean, essentially, none of us had anything to play for, bar a bit of personal pride. There was tickets being begged for up to kickoff. I mean, it was phenomenal. Then obviously you've got the lesser games like the Carabao Cup games against the likes of fucking Barnsley or someone. They don't shift, fair enough, but still a massive demand for United as bad as we are. So it's a bit it's a bit heartwarming to know that the fan base hasn't just given up on us yet.
Yeah, I've always been because there seems to be, to an extent, a bit of I'm going to be I'm going to be touching the edges a little bit of a very difficult conversation here, but there seems to be this almost gatekeeping in the fan base where, certain fans from different parts of the world shouldn't have an opinion or shouldn't be allowed to support United. But then on the other hand, you see a lot of fans praise these Reds all around the world for their commitment. And I do agree with you that I've been very much a case of, like, I don't care where you're from. If you show commitment to watching the team you support, and if you clearly understand the football club you support, there's a clear following, there's a clear, the history, the culture, you understand the traditions. No one is more of a United fan than you. And like you said, it's the finances is ridiculous. I know someone in Norway. She only gets to go pretty much once or twice a year. She'll go for a week, see if she can get 2 games in the same week. Um, but the money that must be involved, she doesn't, she's not made of money. She works her job, and then she'll work another job on the side just to earn some quick money so she can fund the tickets. But so it is insane, and to have that level of commitment, whether you're obviously you mentioned obviously the Ryanair flights, whether it's people getting Ryanair flights from Ireland or coming from all around the world, not everyone has that kind of like disposable income where they've just got 250, 300 quid just lying down the back of the sofa, pay for flights, pay for ticket, pay for hotel. So I think that it is really incredible to see that even in our worst season with a really like bad like squad of players, a lot of players that will sit there slagging off every week because they're just doing the wrong things or not doing the right whatever, and yet there is still that buzz, that love for United. And you mentioned at the beginning, obviously it's a love affair. It must be difficult sometimes saying that.
Absolutely. Just to touch back on something you spoke about like gatekeeping and that, there is a bit of context to the whole thing. I mean, if you're going to look at it pragmatically and sit back and not be an absolute arsehole about it, you have to respect the local lads that go week in, week out, rain, hail, and shine, the effort they put in and travel around the country doing away games, home and away, don't miss a game. That's phenomenal, phenomenal effort. But obviously, there is the context of the lads from overseas who can't get over. Like Irish lads, yes, we can get over far more commonly than someone over in Jamaica. Obviously, enough is geographical, but as you say, financially, some people can, some people can't. I mean, you've got to respect the effort people put in. The only time I think, and it's not gatekeeping, the only time I think that there's a disparity in the opinion of people is when it comes to things like this, like the football ground, like when the survey went out about what should happen to the football ground. I do, I do lean on the side there that season ticket holders should have a more weighted view in comparison to someone who's never literally been there. And that's not me saying the person that hasn't been there isn't a United fan or is any less of a fan, but contextually, if someone is going to the gate to that ground 25, 30 times a season and they're at that ground every second week, it kind of means a lot more and it's a bit more impactful on their life. So when they look at plans for new stadiums and stuff, I would probably, I'm not saying it's the only opinion you take. Of course, you take everyone's opinion, but I would have a weighted side on a view on that. Then on the flip side, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe did that interview recently, the car crash one with Gary Neville, he brought up something that offended me on behalf of other fans because he started mentioning what's a proper red, or proper reds are this and proper reds are that, and proper reds go to every game. And the guy who comes from Hong Kong should pay more than the guy who's there every week. That pissed me off because Jim Radcliffe lived in London and he didn't go to many United games. He actually was quoted saying it was too difficult to get to Manchester. Well, if I can get to Manchester from Limerick, Jim, and I'm a run of the mill, bog standard, working class bloke, and you're a billionaire and you can't pop up from London, there's something a little bit off. So when you start saying that guys from overseas should pay more, he forgets about knock on effects. I mean, this is what happens with this club. He forgets the knock on effect of how do you clarify this? How do you say, okay, the guy from Hong Kong who's coming over for one game a season or one game in his life and is willing and happy to spend an absolute fortune. Fair enough. So you categorize the tickets for category A games, category B games, category C games. But that has a knock on effect on Mike, John, Lily, and Mary, who come from an hour down the road from Old Trafford to 5 or 6 games a season because they're still got the same membership, still got the same ticketing available to them, but you've now priced them out. And you've now created a situation where you're trying to target the money from the overseas fans, but you're knocking out the loyal and the local fans. So it'll be interesting to see what happens ongoing and going forward with this ticketing situation. But like you say, if you respect the fan culture of Manchester United fans and you educate yourself on the history of the club and you understand it, I mean, if you get it, it's a kind of a turn of phrase, but if you get it, you're a red. There are fellas who call themselves United fans who are blatantly not and couldn't give a shit if we got relegated to League Two. But by and large, yeah, and I respect fans around the world, of course.
Yeah, I think to be I think what I respect about that is the fact that you've looked at it from both sides of the argument, and I think you're absolutely spot on. And the bottom line of that is it's a whole big, it's not black or white, it's a whole heap of gray area. And, whatever you say, you're insulting, well, whatever I say, I'm insulting someone somewhere about it. So um, it is a whole thing. But just going back, obviously, to when you mentioned about running your own supporters club, what was the like for example, when I started this channel, for instance, I know it's not the same thing, but when I started, I sat there for a couple of days and I thought, I want to get into the YouTube game. I've come out of something from another channel, decided to, I don't know, I want to stay in the YouTube game. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? Why don't I go start my own thing? And what I want to know is that did you just sit at home one night with a beer in your hand and go, actually, you know what? I want to do this.
No, it was when we played Ajax in that was the Europa League final, wasn't it? Same year we was in the Carabao final, the EFL Cup final that time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. 8 years ago
was
now.
that
That's
Yeah, about 8 years
insane.
ago now. Yeah, so I wasn't long back from Australia, and I started meeting up in a local bar here. Walk uptown, go in for a pint, watch the United game, and slowly but surely over the course of maybe 6, 8, 10 weeks, the crowd started getting a little bit more, and a little bit more, and I kind of thought to myself, I really miss that supporters club network and that group we had in Australia. So wonder if we could get it going here. So I just put up a social media post saying, um, "Come to the bar." The bar is actually gone now, but come to the bar for the cup final and let's try and pack the place. The bar had a capacity, I think, of about 170 was the fire rating or legal capacity, and the bloke who owned the bar at the time counted 230 something inside of that night. So the place was absolutely jointed. That was the EFL Cup final. Then the night of the Ajax final, there's a Liverpool supporters bar at like 10 doors up. And being the shithouses they are, they obviously had a big, massive Ajax flag hanging outside the bar for the night. So we packed out our place. It was like they won't get crowds. They might get 10, 15, 20 watching Liverpool games there. We had 200 plus in the bar, and it was absolutely electric. We ended up going up at the end of the game, nicking the flag and bringing it back down and having a bit of banter. And I just said it to a few lads in the bar tonight. I was like, should we get something going and try to get a supporters club going? And of course, Numpty here, being the idiot that I am, said, "Yeah, I'll try get it going. I'll try set it up myself, and if I get a bit of a help with it, we'll try it." So I rang Michael Linnigan. He's supporter liaison officer now, but he was head of the supporters club and head of operations at United at the time. And I knew Michael from my time in Brisbane, so I rang Michael and I was like, "What you reckon? Can we get a supporters club going here?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, 100%." So back then, to start a supporters club, you needed 50 signed up One United members. You needed to have a committee, so a secretary, chairman, and treasurer. And you needed to have a kind of like a vision statement or a mission statement or something like that. Like, why do you want to set up Supporters Club? Why is there an attraction for it in this area? And you also had to have the permission of the closest Supporters Club branch to you. So this is a beautiful story, actually, this one, because not too many people will know this. So we're in an area called West Limerick, and Limerick City is about 45 minutes away from us. And there was a guy years. He had a bar inside in the city. Um, Interesting character. I rang him essentially to ask his permission, and the club wouldn't give us the nod until this guy said, "Yeah, they're okay. They can have a club." Bit mental. Someone else can decide if you can have a club or not. But I organised to meet him on a Friday evening after work. Went to his bar door, and the bar you've got to get buzzed into it. It's like a security system, which kind of freaked me out at the start because getting buzzed into a bar is a bit dodgy. So I walk in, and this guy's behind the bar, and he's like Tony Soprano in the Mafia. He's like, yeah, he just kind of beckoned for me to sit down at a table, and I'd be dealt with when he was ready. And I sat there and was like, this is shady. This is shady as shit. He finally got ready, and he beckons me to go into the keg room, into the barrels. So I walk in with him. He sparks up a cig, standing there, and he goes, right, what do you want? And I was like, well, just wanted to let you know I was hoping to start up a supporters club out the road. And look, we're obviously not going to try poach any of your members. We're in a completely different area. There's no impact on you, and I would never try to go after your members. And that's not what we're in it about. It's not what we're for. We just want to have our own thing going out here and do our thing and whatever. And he just looked me in the eyes and he was like, "Don't fuck with me, because if you fuck me, I'll fuck you." And that was it. I just left, and I was like, that was the most mafia style introduction to this I've ever seen in my life. And he eventually gave the nod to United, and we got going. And it just took off from there. We In our second season, I think I brought David May and Al Foran down to do a dinner and a Q&A and stuff, which I'd no experience. Actually, I won't say I had no experience. We did have Brian Robson in Brisbane back in the day, but I wasn't taking the lead in that one. I was just helping out.
Mm.
I tried to take the lead in this one, and it was Keith Gillespie, David May, and Al Foran, and Webby. Webby from
Yeah.
Webby O'Neill. Unfortunately, Keith had a bereavement in the family, so he couldn't make it. So David, May, Al, and Webby come down, and we had an absolutely amazing night. It didn't even break even, to be honest. I went way above my pay grade in that one, trying to pull it off, but we got over it. We got through it. And in fairness to Keith Gillespie, I always give him credit for this. He got on to me a while after, and he was like, "I owe you a night." I was like, "No, Keith, look, I think his dad passed away at the time," and I was like, "Keith, there's no need. It's fine." He said, "No, I'm sticking to my word. I'm coming down." So Keith came down, and we didn't have this one in the hotel. We had it in a local bar, and it was such a. I interviewed him myself because I was keeping costs down. I didn't want to get like someone like Webby over again. I interviewed him myself. We had the most amazing day. He came up to the local under 12s, I think it was. I had a chat with him at the football field before the gig. Went in, we had the interview. He was behind the bar pulling pints. Night was over. A couple of the coppers came in. The coppers wanted to get pictures. Heard Keith Gillespie was here. Next thing I'm like, "Yeah, the night's over, mate. Look, if you want to head back to your hotel, it's fine." He's like, "No, is there a nightclub in this area?" Dragged us down to the nightclub, feeding us with vodka Red Bulls. Ended up back in his hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting residence bar bottles of booze trapped up. But it was absolutely amazing. So that was a good starting year or two for us, and it's just kicked on since then. And we've grown year on year, thank God.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the moral of that story is if anyone asks you to do anything, just say, sure, why not? See where it goes, see where it leads you. That's always what
Yeah,
I've been like on a
yeah.
night out.
I did similar in Brisbane, bit of a tangent, but Gaelic football over here, like hurling and Gaelic football itself, I
Yeah.
ended up I wasn't really into Gaelic football back here. Certainly wasn't into female ladies Gaelic football, but after a Saturday night in Brisbane, I ended up starting coaching and setting up a ladies Gaelic football team, which I then ended up taking to the next level and became the coach of the state of Queensland team and taking them to New Zealand, and we won some trophies over there. And don't agree to anything when you're drunk. It leads into a major spiral and goes out of control completely. You'll end up coaching 54 women in Gaelic football when you've never had anything to do with Gaelic football. You're YouTubing training drills, and you've got girls who have come from AFL, NRL, and a girl from New Zealand who never played any sports at all before. Every kind of a mix. It's good fun, but yeah, look, that's sports, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, I couldn't tell you the amount of times I've agreed to stuff on nights out and woke up the morning after thinking, what was I thinking? What did I have to make me think that? But yeah, obviously we just discussed about your supporters club. I wanted to touch on, you know, hosting your own podcast. Tell us a bit more, a little bit more about that. You know, because there'll be some people who haven't tuned into that, and if they haven't, what the hell is wrong with them? But yeah, just tell us a bit more about it.
So I got to know Dale O'Donnell from Straight News a number of years back, became friends with him, and I ended up starting to write for Straight News. Um, didn't even know anything much about podcasts back then. Dale asked me after I went to Atlanta away. I was like 4 or 5 years ago. It was quite an interesting trip because I originally missed my flight that morning, and sitting on the sofa, I was like, "Oh shit, what am I going to do here?" And I said, "Oh, I'll have one look." Made a cup of about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. Made a cup of tea. Went on Skyscanner. Found another flight from Dublin to Turin instead of my direct flight to Bergamo, and took off on this big adventure across. Flew from Dublin to Turin, Turin to Milan, Milan to Bergamo, made it to the ticket collection point with like 15, 20 minutes to spare, got to the game, got home, didn't even have a drink. And the funny story, Dale asked me would I come on and have a chat about it. I did. That was just over a year ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I just got stuck into the podcast ever since. And a couple of months back, Dale decided I'd become the host of the show, or the podcast, whatever you want to call it. And we've just been driving on from there. So it's me, Dale O'Donnell, and John Fitz. John has sat beside me as a season ticket holder in Old Trafford for years. He's running the supporters club with me, and Dale is obviously the journalist background. Dale left Stretty News this year, or late last year. So we went from being a Stretty News podcast to an independent podcast called Simply Red, with no affiliation to Mick Hucknall or the band by any means. So Mick, if you're listening, please don't sue us. I know there's trademark and copyright, but just don't sue us. We've got nothing to give you. So yeah, we were doing our normal weekly show, and I was trying to push it a bit more and try to get it a bit more social media following and things. And just decided, you know what? For the last while, I want to try to take the focus off just doing like match reports and stuff. So we've had on some great people. We've had Henry Winter, Andy Mitten.
Mm.
I had Yap Stam on it last year. I played football with the United Legends in Dublin last year, and I managed to grab Yap for a few minutes. But then the last few episodes we've been trying to do. We had Andy Green on from Must, financial controller from Must. He came on and did like
Yeah.
a finance episode on the finances around the stadium and whatnot. We had the 1958 on, we had FC United and Manchester on, we had Duncan Drasdo on, and just trying to give different fan groups across their message across, or trying to get like access different topics that aren't covered normally on the regular podcast. But also, of course, we try to kind of set ourselves aside in the fact that we don't take ourselves too seriously. We know we're not football geniuses. We're just three Irish lads who love going to football and talking about our club. So it's been interesting. It's been good fun. It's been definitely a learning curve, because listening back on episodes I was doing at the start compared to, well, hopefully compared to now, it's definitely a bit more polished and a bit more professional when I'm hosting it. But it's still only a hobby. So I mean, it's a bit of fun. I enjoy it, and I enjoy having to crack with it. And I'm sure you're going to be the same with this. I mean, I know I think we were on a podcast together. Geez, was that 2 years? Maybe 2 years ago.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, probably 2 3 years ago. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. Podcasting is just a thing that you either like it or you don't, and you either get it or you don't. And if you do, why not give it a go? And that's why I was delighted when you said you were going to have a go at it yourself and give it a bash. I was like, yeah, 100%, absolutely delighted to see it, and glad to help out if I can in any way at all.
I appreciate that. Thank you. For some context, actually, for anyone who doesn't know, so when we played Fulham in the FA Cup a couple of years ago, Brian was on a show with, I think he was on with my friend Keane on the Weekly Armchair, and I said that I can't remember what the stat was, but it was about Mitrovic never scoring at Old Trafford or never scoring an FA Cup goal, and I said, "Watch it happen tomorrow," and then the moment it happens, I get a message from Keane just going like, "Julio, like, what's going on?" Um, so yeah, that was a bit of interesting fortune telling, and that was literally my introduction to Brian and Brian's introduction to me, which was yeah, what a way to start costing my own football club I support a goal. It must have made me look real good there. But yeah, it does sound good though what you say about because the vibe I'm going to go with this is very much like obviously in the name Red Brewer Review. Really, it's all about just whether it's myself or whether it's just a couple of lads just sitting down and just having a cuppa and just chatting like crap about football. Same way I would do at uni with my mates, whether it's at the pub or at home. We're just sticking a camera in our faces and seeing if people agree or disagree. And I think in this game, obviously, you meet a lot of different people and you see what different people are like, and it's really great branching a different network. If it wasn't for YouTube, I wouldn't have met a lot of the people I speak to now on a regular basis. So it's done me a lot of wonder in 2 years I've been in and around YouTube. So it's nice that, obviously going forward, I'm doing my own thing and I'm hoping to maybe branch out further to people further out, and not end up in the wrong side of YouTube. There's a there's a certain
It's important.
section that
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, because I think any United fan who like self-respectingly calls themselves what we'll call a proper red has a certain bias against YouTube. I suppose not against YouTube in itself, but in what YouTube has become for United, because the fan base has been torn apart by certain YouTube channels. So listening to you and what your plans are, I mean, it's a respectable conversation topic that you're lining up to do, and it's a respectable way about going about it. And it's what people want to listen to. I mean, you've got so many podcasts and YouTube channels you can listen to. There's so many polished, really professional, good productions. But sometimes you just want to listen to lads chat shit and have a bit of crack and have a bit of a chat and just listen to normal blokes who go to games like you do. And I think that's why people enjoy listening to people who are just regular working class lads going to games and just having just literal down to earth normal conversations where they don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, you bring in about a certain section of the fan base, and obviously we're talking about YouTube. There is something I wanted to discuss with you because you know there are certain fan channels. I don't know if I should name them or not. You know them,
Name them.
I know them. The whole Twitter knows them. The likes of the United Stand and that. How much do they contribute to the toxicity in their fan base? because especially the last 3 or 4 years, it has gone to an astronomical level, and we're seeing all sorts of almost abuse, if not, if we are going to, if we call it abuse, towards some of some players, and not just foreign import players either, homegrown players, the likes of Marcus Rashford.
There's you probably brought on one of the best people you could, because I have a colourful history with these lads. So I mentioned I used to write for Stretty News, and one of the first articles I wrote was the damage that fan cams are doing to the fan base. And I had no problem naming. I didn't name them all. Sorry, no, that was my second article. I go back. My first article, I didn't name them, and I ruffled a few feathers, and I kind of called out what was going on. I named certain individuals, but I didn't name all of them. Jay Motti from Stretford Paddock, quite amusingly, got quite pissed off at me because he was like, "I'm not like these. This isn't me. This is totally unfair." Had a proper pop with it, and I was like, "Don't even know who you are, so you can fuck off for yourself." Funnily enough, we
Jesus.
became great mates. Yeah, no, but we actually became great mates afterwards because, to be fair to Jay, Jay's a match going red. He's a proper red. He's a really, really good lad. He just got caught up and got labelled, I suppose they call it tarring everyone with the same brush. That's what I did. So
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake on that bit. We chatted it out, and we're actually great friends now. Second article I wrote, I wasn't as hold back on the naming stuff. So I went after Goldbridge. I went after Rance, Saeed, Flex, the She Devils, all these other dickheads who were literally there for clickbait and negativity, narratives and agendas. But this, I know people are protective of the fan cam. People that like it, and that's fine. Fair enough. That's where you get your kicks. You're not getting proper information. You aren't. Like, you're getting drip fed bullshit. And this primarily goes back to Goldbridge, because for me, he started this. He gave a platform. He saw what he could do and he saw what he could achieve. And I have to respect the hustle, because he's made a healthy fortune out of it. But he saw the gap in the market for this Arsenal fan TV style thing around United. He perfected it with this charlatan character that he created. And then he went on and he gave a platform to Rance, who's an absolute scumbag. He's a guy who started accusing the club of racism towards players and whatnot, all these unfounded allegations. Gave a platform to Flex, who's less offensive than Rance, but he's also a dick. He's just had all these random folk that come on, and like, they've got such turncoat opinions. I mean, you'd see it every week. People will expose their opinions for being absolute nonsense. They'd have slated a player 12 months ago, and now because they're colour of the week or flavour of the week, whatever you call it, they're all about them. It's so fake, and it's targeted at kids and younger lads, and probably more, I hate calling the term plastic fans, but like moderate, casual fans who just want to get these little sound bites. But they seem to forget the fact that they are doing a lot of damage, because the narratives and the agendas they spread catch fire, and they become almost taken as gospel. And all of a sudden, you've got this narrative that they've come up with: such and such a player is lazy, he's not interested, he's not this, he's not that, and they rip into them. You don't know if it's true or not, but they're telling it as if it's fact. We all have opinions. I mean, look, they went after Marcus Rashford hardcore. I can't say I didn't give Marcus a bit of stick myself. I think everyone did, because we all got disappointed. But I always clarified in the podcast, I tried to speak about him as calmly as I could, even though he was really annoying me, because the context of my annoyance was, I was annoyed because I know what he can be and I know what he can do, and I've seen what he can
Yeah.
do, and my disappointment was what was hurting, because I was disappointed to see we'd gone from the days where he was pointing at his temple, we were all buzzing off it, and he was scoring all around him. That was great times. It was a great time to be a United fan. To what we saw towards the end, where he did look uninterested, his body language was poor, and the effort wasn't there. But like, people who looked at it again pragmatically were pissed off and annoyed because they wanted him to do better. I don't think the United Stand and these people want him to do better. They want negativity, because negativity it leads to clicks. Like any bad story, any journalist you speak to, negative stories about Man United outdo positive stories tenfold. Always will, because people love to see us fall. So they've hit a great time, and it was a perfect storm, because United started to fall off from being the monster they were, and started falling off the the cliff as a football team and as a football club, just at the time these clowns came on around the place, and it just fell into their hands, and they were able to give the negativity, because we were poor every weekend, and we got poor performances, poor players. It led into them having this lovely cauldron of negativity to spread everywhere. So I think they've done ferocious damage. I can't believe that they get access to the club. Can't believe they've
Mm.
had access to certain players. Then again, you'll also see, plain to see, I mean, they got access to Rasmus Hoyland. They will never say anything negative about Rasmus Hoyland. It's so transparent. Whereas Rashford mugged them off because he called him out, so they slated him to death. I mean, it's so see through, but they exist. They're obviously not going anywhere. But I don't think the club should pander to them. I don't think they should be allowed access into training. I don't think they should be allowed access to
Mm.
anything because the club should have a bit more self respect. And I've asked the club, I've actually asked the club directly, why are you pandering to these? And they've pretty much said, well, papers write negative stuff about the club as well, so you have to respect all forms of media. It's a bit of a cop out, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I completely understand. I think COVID did them a favor as well, because Arsenal fan TV had grown just before COVID, and Arsenal were bad just before COVID, so they had their rise. And I think you've hit the nail on the head about how well Goldbridge has actually done to find the gap in the market and to milk the cash cow that it is. And obviously, with everyone being indoors for the best part of a year and a bit, obviously we're not seeing we're watching, we're not, yeah, a lot of people aren't at stadiums watching the games, and these so-called fan cameras, they're doing all watch alongs, they're getting their views up, and then they're allowed to sprout more hate. I think what was worse was the fact that we came off the back of Mourinho's last 3 or 4 months, which were like really negative, and then Ollie comes in, and then he has this whole rebuild on his hands, and then it's just getting worse. And then when it went tits up for Ollie, whether it was a bad result or that last like 10 weeks where it was really bad, the negativity in the fan base really surged. And I think I think it's quite insane, the fact that just how it's grown. Like, I know it's very easy that like negativity grows a lot better than positivity. If you see on social media, everything spreads. But I just think the way they've gone about it is quite crazy. And like you say, the fact that they've got access to the football club is quite insane, especially when you see this guy actively going out of his way. Because for me, like, I could never sell my soul like that, in the sense of I will protect certain people because of my access links. I'm very much a case of I will criticize anyone as I see fit. I will call it how I see it. Marcus Rashford's been one of my favorite players for the last 10 years. David De Gea was one of my favorite players for the last 10 years. But even I got to the point where I said he should have been moved on 4 or 5 years ago. He should never have stuck around as long as he did, and we were right to move him on. And with Marcus Rashford, I said the same in one of my early videos. I said, as much as I love him and I know what he can be, but from a footballing perspective, it's just not. We're not getting value for money wages. It's best for everyone. He doesn't look happy. The club aren't happy with him. It's best if he just moves on, finds his love for football again, etc. And I think it's absolutely insane that Mark Goldbridge has this almost platform where, like you say, everyone takes what he says as gospel. And it's quite hilarious when he gets a lot of his opinions wrong, because he's a genuine idiot who doesn't always talk about half the time. So the amount of clips that everyone has for him to throw back in his face when there's something wrong. But even away from Goldbridge, throughout the fan base, there seems to be, with these negative channels, there seems to be all this right all the time attitude, where they have their opinion, they treat it as fact, and anyone who says otherwise, they won't listen to any other perspective. It's, well, you're wrong then. And I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah. I've had to hold my hands up at times. Joshua Xerxes fooled me early days. I didn't think he was up to much. Admittedly, he's made me eat my hat in that one, and he's proven himself to be a very capable player. I mean, you have to be able to accept that you've said things wrong or that you've got your opinions wrong. And opinions can change. Obviously, football's transient. I mean, some players can go through bad form, good form, and you can't just stick to your guns and just outright go against a player or be for a player. Although I guess maybe Scott McTominay is the exception to the rule, because I backed Scott McTominay to the hilt, high up or low down, rain, hail or snow, and I reckon he should still be there. But yeah, look, it's, if people want to get content, football content about United, we fanzines. If you're not into podcasts and whatnot, fanzines, get onto United We Stand, Andy Mitten's United We Stand, and all the lads who write for United We Stand. It's unbelievable content. Barney at Red News, brilliant, brilliant content. I mean, this is proper content from lads who travel all around, really good Reds who write really good stories and really good articles. That's proper football content. That's fan culture and something we've got to protect. We've got to protect our fanzines because the culture of having magazines or fanzines around a football club, it's a dying art. Print media is a dying art. I know we do digital podcasts and audio podcasts and whatnot, but we're not trying to replace those people, whereas these fan channels are. So get out and get yourself a copy, or if you're walking down to the game and you see the lads selling a mag, grab a copy of it and dig into it, and you'll see what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of that stuff, and it is really good. I think what a lot of yeah, I think it's good for fans to differentiate and identify what kind of content they want. Sure, you might get it's like you said, like what Goldbridge and what you know, his batch do, and even the people who's worked for him in the past, they've gone on to leave and they've gone on to complain about him or criticize him in some way. But what they do is the gallery they play to is different to what you look for, what I look for, what a lot of people I know look for. Some people just want genuine, good football content, or even, like you said, just a bunch of lads just sitting around having a beer, having a cup or whatever, and just chatting absolute shit about football. And I think that, you know, I think I would love to just see all this abuse stop all around, but it doesn't look like it's coming away anytime soon. Like Bruno Fernandes, one of our better players, he gets criticized beyond belief by everyone for multiple reasons. You get people saying he's not good enough technically, he's not a system player. You get pundits saying he's not a leader, he's not this. What do you make of Bruno Fernandes?
Bruno's a curious one because I can empathise with people who get annoyed by him. He does piss me off at times. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. He used to piss me off a lot with his whinging and moaning to the ref and the hands up in the air. Seems to have he seems to have copped on a bit that way. He seems to have, I won't say grown up because it's not for me to tell Bruno Fernandes to grow up, but he seems to have eradicated it from his game some bit, especially since he's had the captaincy. And you cannot tell me that Bruno Fernandes is not the best player we've seen since Alex Ferguson was at the club. I mean, he's been head and shoulders above anybody else. The stats, I'm not a massive stats man, but the stats prove it. The eye test, as all the cool kids call it, that proves it. He's just a damn good footballer. He's the shining light of the club. I'd really hate to think where we'd be without him. I really would, because he's
Mm.
dragged us through the shit so many times with individual moments of brilliance. He's um he's the one, yeah. I mean, remember when Paul Pogba was signed and he was coming in, and I thought, yeah, this is the game changer. Let's build a club and let's build the whole team around him. And he was a shithouse. It's Bruno you need to build around, and it's Bruno you need to unlock, as they say, and set him free, and all these other nonsense terms they use. Just get a decent team around Bruno. He's been so unlucky to come into a club that's been in the situation we are, because he's a guy who deserves to win trophy after trophy. I mean, the effort and desire, his availability is phenomenal. Like, he is always, always playing. He's always available. You can't knock the lad for effort. And like, even the last few games you've watched, he's been man of the match. He's gone around trying stuff. He's doing everything he can to get the team going. He's been let down by his teammates a lot of the times because they're not on form, and not let down by lack of effort, but lack of form. Then you've the likes of Roy Keane, who tear strips off him for these sound bites, which I think by and large everyone was pissed off with, because he went in on him needlessly and he started questioning this and questioning that. I mean, it's fair. I've questioned, is he the type of captain I would view at United, in the sense that, is he a Roy Keane? Is he someone who's going to get that extra 1% in the dying moments out of the rest of the players around him? Probably not by screaming at him. He's trying to lead by example by what he's doing. So I guess it's a conundrum, in the sense that if he's off form, his leadership probably drops off because his own performance isn't leading. He's not the most vocal of captains, but then again, I suppose if you look at it last night against Leon, he was chewing players left, right, and centre around him. So maybe he's getting a bit of that biting him as well. But anybody who says anything negative about Bruno Fernandes, in the sense that he shouldn't be here or he hasn't been as good as he has, is a lunatic. He's absolutely brilliant. He's been a brilliant, brilliant footballer for us, and we'd be really in this shit without him.
I think it's crazy actually with that, because I see a lot of people who I discuss football with a lot, and they talk about how, Bruno is an output player and that's it. And I'm just there like, well, hang on a minute. You can't, you're not, I've never seen someone be crap at football, but get crazy levels of output. Yeah, and he's played different roles since he's been here. You know, he first came in under Solskjaer. He used to bang goals in for fun, and then under Ten Hag, he played a bit deeper, and under Amram, he's been moved around a bit, and you know, he's still getting the goals, but I'm supposed to believe that some old geezer on the United stand is telling me that his goals don't count because they're against either Arsenal or Southampton.
That particular old geezer you're on about, I'm presuming it's Rick you're on about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know Rick, go on Google, type in Rick the Red Tout, Tout, and you will see that Rick and his shitbag son were caught for touting for thousands and thousands of pounds. You'll also see that our beloved football club made the silly decision of hiring them and bringing them onto the team. Rick is a wolf in sheep's clothing who's an older school shitbag when it comes to opinions. He's been a pro Martial to the death, to his detriment. He'll go after certain players, and Bruno's one he picks on. Rick's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. I met him. I mentioned this on Twitter recently. I met him in one of the the executive suites. I was at Young Boys at home in the execs. It was my first time going to the execs ever. It's not something I really do, but one of the lads gifted me a pair of execs for the night, and I was like, do you know what? Bit of a dead rubber game, going for the crack. Why not try it out? I met him inside there. I walked past him and I was like, that's that Rick the Red dickhead. So I walked over, impersonating a fanboy, let's say, and I was like, oh, I recognize you, mate. And he was like, oh, yeah, yeah. I said, you're that guy. He was like, yeah, yeah. You're that guy that's a tout and a fucking dickhead on the United stand, you fucking scumbag. And he just looked at me. His face dropped. And I was like, yeah, happy I got that out of me. I needed to get off my chest. Just pottered off and went on about my night. But yeah, he's a douchebag, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just I know about that story. There's a lot of money involved. I don't know. I saw the money numbers and I thought, you know what, this is a great scam. But in the grand scheme of things, this is ridiculous. Um, and how that geezer's got a platform, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
It was £600,000 of touting he was caught for. So like,
Jesus
imagine how
Christ.
imagine how many Reds he's ripped off. And anybody who knows me, especially for social media, I've got to be in my bonnet about touting. I'm so anti-touting and so pro face value ticketing. It's something I've pushed for a long, long time, and it all goes back. No one actually. I don't think I've actually ever told anyone this story outside of my own friends. But the reason I hate touting, I went to the EFL Cup final against Villa, 2010, I think it was,
Mm,
and I flew over with a mate of mine. 2010, I was what, 26, 25, 26-ish. Not long out of my apprenticeship, wouldn't have been so flush with cash. And me and my mate flew over with a few quid in our pocket and said, look, we'll try to get tickets over. So we landed, we were at this hotel area and we just started asking around everybody, have you got tickets? Have you got tickets? And this older bloke was like, yeah, yeah, I've got two spare tickets beside me. You can have them. I said, right, how much? And I suppose in the grand scheme of touting, it wasn't that bad, but he was like 250 quid each.
Jesus
So I looked at my
Christ.
buddy and I was, like compared to today's prices, it was for nothing. But I looked at my buddy and I was like, do we trust him? What do we do? And then we had to make the decision, right? We have two choices here. We can either go to the game and we're not going to the pub because we're absolutely broke after that, or we can go on the piss and watch it in the pub. And we just said, look, we're here for the game. Obviously, we want to see the football. We can go for drinks at home. Let's buy the tickets. So we bought tickets. And in fairness to the fella, the tickets were sat beside him. He didn't rip us off. We were sitting beside the bloke. But I spent the whole 90 minutes sitting beside him. And all I could think of was, you're supposed to be a United fan. You've just ripped off a young fella and took all his spending money for his trip just to make a few quid off me, which it made me so sick to my stomach afterwards. It spoiled the day for me because I knew he was after shafting us. And I always said to myself after that, I will never, ever try and make a few quid off a ticket off someone else. I'll always, if I got a ticket to give someone and it's £45, I want £45 for it. I don't want 50. Or if I'm in a position I can give them away for free, I would. But it turns my stomach, guys making money off other people. So Rick is my antichrist.
What about Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Because I wanted to ask you as well about, ticket, what he's done, what the INEOS takeover has been like, in your opinion, so far, and what your thoughts are on the ticket prices and everything that's been going around that, actually.
Jim Radcliffe is another conundrum because he came in and he was we kind of sold it as the savior. Like, this is someone, anybody but the Glazers at that stage of our lives,
Yeah.
anybody but the Glazers was an uplift to the fan base, not realizing the kind of person that we brought in. Jim Radcliffe has done things that are so unstomachable and so downright horrific that I can't stand him. And I can't stand him. I can't stand the fact that he's gone after OAPs. I mean, our most loyal fans, the most loyal fans in this fan base, are people who've had season tickets for 50 odd years, who've seen United through the good and the bad. They're still there. They haven't given up. They haven't sacked it off. They're still going. And he's decided, nah, in your later years of your life, I want to dip my hand in your pocket. He's gone after kids and making sure that they're going to pay more for tickets. Again, surely the one thing you want in football is to push a fan base and develop a fan base. And the only way to do that is bring kids into it. TRA, the Red Army, have been brilliant at pushing that since their existence and since their inception. They've been pushing that youth aspect. Jim has decided, nah, let's charge him more. He tried the £66 thing. We mentioned that interview he did with Gary Neville. He lied on that. Now, I accuse him of lying. I don't know, was it lying or was it just misinformation? Someone set him up with an answer for a question that he didn't really understand. Not sure how much he has of a finger he has on the pulse there, but he's just gone after us the wrong way. Chris Hames from the 1958 was on with me on the podcast the other week, and he made a great point. He was like, you only get one chance to make your first impression. And Jim Ratcliffe had a chance to come in and put a really good buzz around the fan base, make some nice moves, get the fan base on side. And then obviously, look, you're going to have to make hard decisions as time goes by, but start off with a bit of a buzz, start off with something positive and get people with you. He came in and he fucking sacked 200 working class people. And he jacked up ticket prices. He's done away with European away collections. He's gone after the one system that we all agreed worked. I mean, he's done away with dinners and food for staff and trips to finals for staff. And he's just been cutthroat and ruthless. I had Duncan Drasda on from Must, and we talked about what it's like dealing with the club with Orma Brada and Jim Ratcliffe and sitting down in the fans forum, the fan advisory board, and what came out this season for the season ticket renewals. Andy Mitten broke that one, about 5% rises and whatever else they've done. As bad as what they've done is, I refer back to what I've been told by the likes of Duncan and us. If we think that's bad, imagine what they were trying to get through on the fan advisory board. Imagine what the club were suggesting, that this was the best we could possibly get out of them. It was, I've never been told what it was, and I can't because obviously due to NDAs, but all I've been told is it was utterly horrific what they tried to push through. And luckily we had a bit of representation that avoided as much as they could for as long as they could. But I fear for the future. I fear for what's going to happen ongoing with these people. INEOS are cutthroat. They're going to try and build this new circus-style stadium. Another thing that's going to cost us 2 billion. We're riddled in debt already, and I really, really I feel afraid for what's going to happen ticket pricing wise when we do eventually move stadium. It won't happen in 5 years unless there's a miracle. When we do move, I can see my season ticket going from, I think it's 850 or 900 quid or something at the moment. That's going to double. I mean, they're going to absolutely shaft everyone. They've gone and they've moved. I know some great lads who sit around the dugouts in Southstand, and they've made them move because they want to put hospitality tickets in closer to the dugouts because they can sell them at a higher price. I mean, everything is money, money, money. It's disgusting. It doesn't sit well with me, and I don't think going forward it's going to get any better. Which is a shame because we thought once someone new came in and had some bit of an impact on the club, and they didn't get rid of the Glazers yet, but at least pushed them aside a bit. They came in like Julio. They came in and they said they're going to focus on the sporting control of the club. The sporting control of the club has nothing to do with dinner ladies and fucking ticket pricing. This is all financials. I mean, I was fooled by it. I swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. I thought these lads are coming in, they're going to focus on getting us to be the best football team we can be. We're now in 13th with ticket price hikes. I mean, it doesn't equate.
No, it does not. I think there's two ways you can look at it. On the one hand, I like the idea that we've got a proper businessman coming in who's gone in and gone, right, well, we need to cut back on certain costs. And I can understand if it was like we've got too many interns around the photocopier. So he decides, too many interns around the photocopier. We don't need five geezers at the photocopier. Get rid of four of them. We only need one photocopier guy. That I can kind of like. I think, what did he say? There was something about like a body language therapist that was on a 160 grand salary. Is that true? If it's true, then that's insane what the Glazers were doing. And if it's not true, then why are you lying like that? But on the other
That's
hand,
one of those things that came out. That's one of the things that came out that people have tried to verify and can get absolutely no information on. No one can verify that there was a body language specialist on any type of salary
hmm,
at the club. Yet he's saying that this guy was on phenomenal money, whoever they were. It's mental.
yeah, I think, I mean, to be fair, we've always had an issue with the Glazers where they've always had an overinflated like payroll on the pitch. So yeah, I can only hasten to imagine what it was like off the pitch. But at the same time, like, there are working class people losing their jobs, and I don't like that, especially people who've been part of the club for 25, 30 years and even longer, like stewards and all sorts. It's not fair on them. They don't deserve it. Just because the football club is failing on the pitch, these guys shouldn't have to suffer because, you know, we've got shit players. And cutting costs, like we're trying to share flights to the FA Cup final or the Ballon d'Or ceremony or whatever. It's ridiculous. We're supposed to be arguably, if not the biggest club in the world. Why are we asking our rivals, Manchester City, like, listen, you've got a spare bit of cash. Can we? We got a few more for the flight. Can you let some more people on? I think there's only there's only so much I can say with the new ownership. Like, okay, there's some good here, there's some good here. Um, there is there is a small inkling somewhere that apparently it's actually the Glazers behind it, and Jim Ratcliffe is the face of it. I don't know how much it is to read into it because the last I checked, the Glazers were on the other side of the ocean and they didn't seem to care about what's going on money wise with the club. Ten Hag's transfer business is testament to that. So I don't know. I think the fan protests are. I mean, I don't know what your opinion is on the fan protests, but I think they're more than valid. To be perfectly honest, fans have every right to be upset for the reasons you stated as well.
Yeah, the fan protest. I mean, look, we can do it to death, or we can cover it really quickly in the sense that anybody who goes against the fan protests is incredibly wrong because you have to support people that are protesting, and especially the groups that are protesting. So TRA 1958 must any fan group that we have that has any type of protest support it. Why not? I mean, what have you got to lose? These people aren't doing it because they're against you. They're doing it because they're for you. They're representing you. They're trying to help the fan base in some sense against a club that literally hates us. The club doesn't like season ticket holders. That's a fact. The club doesn't like legacy fans, as they're called. Fact. The club wants us all out and getting replaced with fans who are willing to spend more money. But like I see so many protests happen and people just sit there at home slating it. I mean, what are you gaining by this? I mean, what do you gain by knocking people who are doing something on their own time, out of their own free will, in their own pocket, to try and make things better for us? So, an easy answer on the protests. I support every single protest that anybody does, as in proper protests, not like the Mongi Side protest, because that was a fucking shambles, but like any properly organised protest, yeah, absolutely, 100% behind every one of them. And I can't but respect it. I like the 1958's new slant where they've brought FC United back on board. That's a good collaboration and it kind of throws a bit of a hat tip back to the history and the original fallout with the Glazers. So it's a nice slant and things. But yeah, get behind it. I mean, even the sit-in protest last week, we saw stewards. The stewards have all been replaced by agency stewards, and they fucking manhandled a fan out of the ground because he decided to sit in his seat longer than he's supposed to. It's ridiculous. So if you're not going to support protest, look at these type of things. That's why people are protesting. That's why I've attended every protest I have when I've been at games and there's been protests on, and why I'll always support them.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that. I think there's nothing wrong with protest. This is not like some EDL protests about certain like races and genders that shouldn't be allowed. It's got nothing to do with it. It's nothing to that extreme. This is a big group of fans worldwide who want their football club back. They want the football club they love, and it's been ran into the ground by a bunch of Americans who don't care. And especially when it was a father who owned it. He passed away. The kids got the shares, and it's the two brothers mainly who want to stick around, and all the other siblings are sitting there like, "Nah, why are you still here? We don't want any part of this." And it's quite telling as well when their NFL team, you can see they're trying to put put energy into that team, it's quite frustrating. And even I know this isn't really doesn't say much, but pundits frustrate me. When they start saying that, why are they mad at the Glazers? They spent this amount of money in a short space of time. I'm sorry, but on the one hand, from a business perspective, I rate the fact that they've not paid any money for a business and it's been a cash cow and they've just gotten rich out of it. I would love it personally to an extent, but it's a football club that people care about. You'd think at some point the moral compass would would take over, but it was the perfect scam. It was the perfect business scam for them.
Yeah, they caught us. They caught the whole people. They caught the club rotten. The fan base knew. I mean, an element of the fan base fought back against the Glazer family, but look how well they've played it. They've ripped dividends off for years and years and years. As the club suffered and the club went into further debt, these guys were taking dividends, millions and millions and millions of pounds. I mean, look, the Glazer topic has been done to death, but to sit back and just think about it, it was such a perfect scam. It really was. And the fact that the government and the FA and whoever else allowed it to happen is a deplorable. It baffles me that it was allowed. It was allowed to actually happen, and then we saw it play out in front of our eyes. Yet they're still there, and I do. The only positive side I can give to this is I do have a sneaky feeling. I've absolutely no information or context on this whatsoever. It's completely down on my gut, but I have a sneaky feeling they're on the way out. I really do. I think this is a start of them leaving. I
Yeah,
don't think the planning of the new stadium and stuff, and the fact that INEOS are facing it all with zero involvement from the Glazers, it kind of tells me in the background that maybe they won't be around and they won't have any involvement in it. So let's hope. But then again, out of the frying pan into the fire, out of the Glazers and into INEOS. Let's see what happens there.
I think the Glazers are looking to build their own new stadium in the States for the Bucks anyway. So I think that they're going to need the money to come from somewhere, and where better than some British businessman who seems to care more about a business than you do. So we've got to get the money from somewhere, and it looks like that's how it's going to be. How long it takes? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Lord knows. But um, sooner the Glazers are out, the better. I've got two more topics I want to touch on you. One's very short. One's still a little bit short, but not just a bit longer. I wanted to touch on Ruben Amorim. So obviously comes in mid-season, doesn't want to, but the job offer's there. He decides, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity. It feels like an age ago that he came in. What have you made of him so far, just in general, whether it's in terms of formation, himself as a guy and his management style, everything about it?
Really, different ways to look at Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim as a person, as a character and a persona, I really like him. Really, really like him. I like his style. I like the way he speaks. I like the way he carries himself. I like the way he's behaved as the manager, and I can respect the fact that he came in and said, "Look, Marcus Rashford isn't for me. I want him out." Fair enough. You're the gaffer. It's your choice. He wanted to get rid of Anthony again. Your choice. He's trying to build something. I think he got unlucky in the sense that when he took over the job wasn't exactly ideal for him. Common knowledge he wanted to come in the summer, but he was basically told to mandate you have to come in now or not at all. So it's not like he came in with a preseason. It's not like he came in with a settling in period. He just came in straight into a shithole and an absolute dogfight, and things instantly got worse. Unfortunately, we didn't get the new manager bounce that people historically get. Things went tits up really. Then you look at the formation. It's different. It's not something we're used to. It takes a bit of getting used to for us. It's obviously going to take a bit of getting used to for the players. You look at the category of players that we have and the style of players we have, are they suited to the system? I mean, you could do a full entire podcast on the system and the players and what he's got to work with and the injury crisis he's had, which we seem to keep having season after season. I mean, the likes of Ahmad being out is a massive loss. Cobby being out, massive loss. Our strength and depth is non-existent. So again, he's having to work with one arm behind his back a lot of the time, and I'm not going to say he's not doing his best because he obviously is. There was a time I questioned, should he change his formation? Should he change his style? And should he just try and become that, my favourite word, pragmatic, try and get a result at any cost just to get to the summer? But then what's the benefit of that? You're not going to learn that system. You're not going to implement that system to your players. Suffer short-term pain for long-term gain, I guess, is the viewpoint of it. It'll be interesting this summer. I think the summer's make or break because
Mm.
the type of player we sign will say a lot about what's going to happen. I think if we go for a Delap as a striker, Delap strikes me as a kind of Erasmus Highland style signing. small sample size. His career hasn't been that long. He's kind of a player to mould going forward. We need, and we did need, an out and out striker that's been proven. We needed someone for Hoyland to learn off of, and Hoyland to tag team with. Let Hoyland come in when the other guy's injured. Let Hoyland take over when he's out of form. Work together. But putting a guy like Rasmus Hoyland up front on his own at a young age, in a developmental stage in his career, was suicidal. To do the same with the Lap would be another horrific mistake, in my opinion. Fast forward 12 months, the Laps just won us a league title, and you can all call me a dickhead, which I commonly get, no problem. But I think we need to sign a mix. We need to sign the likes of Aidan Heavens and Lenny Euros, people with potential. Aidan Heaven was a master stroke. I mean, his transfer fee was ridiculous. These kind of signings are brilliant, but you have to have a mix. You have to bring in some experienced players. You have to have people that are ready to play in the here and now, that can have an immediate effect. Lissandro Martinez is a question mark. His injury record's starting to become concerning. Luke Shaw is a non-entity. He hasn't been involved. Casemiro, even though Casemiro, to his credit, has played really well lately, he's still not a long-term prospect. I mean, his days are behind him. So I'm kind of reserving judgment on Amorim as such, because I don't think it was a fair shake of the stick for him when he came in. I've definitely had doubts about him. 100% I have. I've had doubts about what way we're going directionally, but I also look at the bigger picture, I guess, and say, look, he seems to be a guy who knows what he's doing. He seems to have a good persona. He's more affable than Eric Ten Hag was. I loved Eric Ten Hag, don't get me wrong, but his persona to the media was horrendous. He didn't come across well, and he allowed the media to go after him, whereas Amorim's a bit stronger that way. But then look at Amorim. Amorim's getting fucking interviewed every 24 hours. I mean, I can't understand where this is coming from. I've heard more from Ruben Amorim in the last 2 weeks than I've heard from my wife, and I see her every single day. So it's a strange one. But no, I like Amorim. I like it. Like, you can see lately what he's trying to achieve, and there has been definitely signs of this kind of system clicking a bit better. We just need a bit of luck. And like last night, Rasmus Hoyland dragging that shot wide when it was put in the plate for him. Out now striker bangs that in. It looks like a great move. It looks like a really good bit of football, and the team looks far more polished. So give him time. I've historically always been someone who's backed the manager and given him as much time as I possibly could, until it came to a stage where it was just non-negotiable and it wasn't working. So yeah, Ruben's Red Army. Here we go. Beard is best. He was bald is best, but luckily I'm bald and bearded, so I could go transition from bald is best to beard is best very easily.
Yeah, I've got less hair now than I did when Ten Hag first came in. So yeah, I'm heading that way. But beard is best. I would agree. One final thing before I let you go, I'm gonna give you 5 United players, and I want you to blind rank them.
I hate these. I hate these because they're always a fucking trick question. Go on.
All right, the first one I've got for you is the King, Eric Cantona.
It's not current squad players. It's over history.
In general, all time.
Julio. No. Right. So I've got to do one. I've got to state position 1 to 5. 1 being best, 5 being worst.
Yeah.
Is there context, or is it just my opinion? And do I
Your
love them as a
opinion.
footballer, or is it?
Your opinion. I could put Scott McTominay in there, and you could put him first. Who knows?
Okay, Eric Cantona 2.
Okay.
Fuck. Yeah. No. Yeah. Go on 2. Yeah.
George Best.
Oh, we can't go this far back. I thought we were going to do modern history. Jesus. Oh, this is horrific. I'm saving number 1 for my favourite Man United player. And if you don't ask about him, I'm going to be gutted. So I'm going to have to put George Best 3, which is horrific to George Best.
All right. Bruno Fernandes.
4. 5 and 1 left. You're a bad person.
Wayne Rooney.
Oh, fuck off. Only because I'm hedging my bets here that you're not going to say who I want you to say last. I'll put Rooney number 1. Don't
My
do it
next
to me.
one was Tom Cleverley. So
Major escape. Yeah, number 5. Number 5. I'm actually all right with that. I'm happy enough with that. I didn't do too bad.
yeah,
I was
could have
waiting
been.
for Beckham. Beckham's my
Yeah,
favourite of all time.
Bex. What a guy, man.
And,
What a
and I
guy.
still haven't got over it. I don't think I ever will. There's 2 things I have. There's 3 things that spring to mind when I look at United and things I haven't got over in time. I haven't got over Beckham leaving. I haven't gotten over Nani's red card against Real Madrid, and I've never gotten over Adnan Januzaj selling me a dream that he was the next George Best and turned out to be absolutely dog shit.
I just don't bring up Nani against Real Madrid. Right, we're going to call it a night there.
They
Ryan,
moved us
thank you
still
so
deep.
much for your time this evening. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Tell everyone where they can find you.
So yeah, and come here. Thank you so much for having us on. Really enjoyed the chat. It was a really, really good conversation, and I'm wishing you the best of luck going forward. I hope we can do this again sometime down the line. If you're looking to find me, you'll find us on @SimplyRedPod on Twitter. So the Simply Red Podcast. And if you want to have utter nonsense, fantastic food opinions, and blatant banana yazoo hype, you get me on @DayTrippingRed on Twitter.
Especially the fry-ups. The fry-ups are always the best thing to look for out there.
Yeah, fry ups are the one. My fry up rating is elite, and my curries are top class. Shout out to Matt Hudson, the curry king, but I think I'm up there with him.
All right. Yeah, anyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, you know where to find me. My socials are here on my name and that. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you later.